Let's talk about a proof. Suppose you had a drawing like this, and you're given that C is the midpoint of BD, so C is the midpoint of BD and AE, so C is the midpoint of both of those. What we're going to do is to prove that the two triangles are congruent. So in other words, prove this triangle is congruent to that triangle with just that information. So the first statement is going to include the things that are given. C is the midpoint of BD and AE. That was given. Now, because of that, BC is congruent to DC. In other words, BC is congruent to this by the definition of midpoint. So we were told that C was the midpoint, and that necessarily means that BC is congruent to DC. So BC is congruent to DC because of what midpoint means, the definition of midpoint. And in exactly the same way, AC is congruent to EC by the definition of midpoint. So over here, AC is congruent to CE for the very same reason, the definition of midpoint. Now, what was not given and that we have to know, we can't assume it, but we have to know it, is that angle BCA is congruent to angle ECD by the vertical angle theorem of congruence. So the vertical angle theorem says that when you have an intersection like this, that this angle is congruent to that angle. So BCA is congruent to ECD because of the vertical angle theorem. And then what you have is, by the way, what you're going to do is you're going to mark these. I don't have my pen with me, but you're going to mark that to be the same as that. And you're going to mark this to be the same as this. And then you have these two angles. So basically you have side, angle, side, side, angle, side. So the final statement is the two triangles are congruent by side, angle, side. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, shoot me a comment.